Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the first speed sculpt that I'm posting to this channel. I haven't really done many speed sculpts in my life. Never like a very serious one to completion. And this one wasn't really that fast in the end. I think it took me about an hour to get the basic mesh done, and I think then another 2 hours of basically just messing around. A lot of it wasn't progress. I didn't texture or rig. It's just a model to sort of practice my sculpting skills. If you've seen any of my other 3D modeling videos, you've probably seen me do a lot of box modeling because that's how I learned. And I've always loved sculpting, but I've found it to just not be as easy to me as box modeling, because you're always fighting with the computer and fighting with the polygons. I just feel that I have a little bit more control with box modeling. But this project was a lot of fun. I was inspired. I need to look up his name, but I'll put it on the screen. I was inspired by this guy. He's an amazing speed sculptor, very, very fast, probably one of the best in the world. And he was sculpting a four-armed strong man, like an ogre kind of character, lots of muscles. And I did actually do quite a few strong men when I was studying anatomy, when I started sculpting, but I never posted anything, and I didn't take any renders because they weren't really that good, and I didn't really take it that seriously. And I think maybe I didn't take them seriously from maybe like a fear of not being able to do as well as other people, or maybe it's just that I was focused on other things. But now I see the value of just sort of jumping in with these projects, whether it's painting, drawing, sculpting, making music. The idea that you're going to be showing somebody, or the idea that you're aiming for something perfect, can hold you back from actually just making something. And that's where the fun lies, you know. When we're kids and we're given Play-Doh, there's no expectations, you know, for making something that looks good. You just have fun from the tactile feeling of the Play-Doh under your fingers and seeing it change shape, you know, according to your will. That's the fun of it. And I think it's sad when that fun gets corrupted by the need to you know, make something good or better than something that somebody else has made. But I suppose at the end of the day, this is a profession that people pay for. It's a job. People live on this, so there is obviously times to take it seriously. Yeah, so as we can see here, I'm just stretching out the model to make some arms. I sculpted the fists as closed because that's what it was like in the picture, and I don't intend on opening them. Also decided at this point to split the head from the torso, and I had some trouble with that until I googled how to do it. I think I ended up using a mask instead of this slice tool, which just was not working for me. I don't know if it's my fault or the fault of Blender. It's really not the type of thing that you want to be doing while you're speed sculpting, is troubleshooting the software that you're using. And I think that's where experience comes into play, and that's just another reason why it's so good to just jump in and practice, and not spend months, deliberating over whether your model is good or not. Just jump in and make it as quickly as you can. So as you can see, the reference that I was using is the image on the left, and it's just a frontal image. And later you'll see me modeling the back, and I did get a reference image, but I noticed that when looking for reference images for muscular backs, that everybody has a different back. Like, you can study anatomy and study what humans look like in general, but nothing will prepare you for what an actual human looks like, because we can look like anything. There's infinite different permutations of shapes and forms that humans can take, and that I think is very evident when you're looking at references for muscular backs. It seems like every single bodybuilder has a different set of muscles or a different muscular structure on their back. Maybe there's just so many muscles in the back that when you work out different muscles, they become more prominent or something like that. Maybe it's like a brain, like your neural pathways disintegrate and some become strong, and it's different in each person. Maybe the back is like a similar thing. I don't know, but I have suspicions that comic book artists get a little bit jazzy with their muscles. They kind of improvise, especially with the area just under the arm, under the pec, just beside the abs there. That section it just looks like an Irish landscape. It's just these rolling hills that I don't think correspond with any realistic muscle structure. So here we begin the sort of improv sculpting of the back. Well, I do actually loosely base it on the image on the left, but it ends up being a bit more of a Hulk version of that back. For the pants here, I just used the clay brush to just get like a suggestion of material on the pants. Usually I would sculpt the character naked and then add clothes afterwards. Or I would just delete the polygons where the pants would be and then make the pants a separate object. But here I just made it all one object and gave it two different textures. Yeah, but the point of this video is not to create like a finished model, it's just to practice modeling. I've also been doing a little bit of painting, actually not painting, drawing with colored markers on like box cardboard. And I think there's something about like the shittier your canvas is, the cheaper your materials are, the more free you will be. I think maybe that's just true for people who aren't filthy rich. People who are filthy rich, they have no qualms about taking a bucket of paint and pouring it onto a canvas. But I've always felt kind of like conservative and thrifty with my paints. Yeah. And it's actually terrible, because if I have some paint left on my palette, I will very like irrationally take that paint and I'll find an excuse to use it on my painting, like adding colors where the colors shouldn't even be, just because I want to use up the paint, which is really irrational. But I haven't really overcome that feeling, but obviously I don't do that anymore, because that's really dumb. But what I do now is, if I have paint left on my palette, I will store it in the fridge. So I always have the smell of oil paints in my fridge, and I always have a palette in a Tupperware. I bought some gouache though, which is like a type of watercolor paint, and the gouache can stay on your palette forever basically, and you can always reuse it because it's watercolor, so you can just mix a little bit of water in with the paint and then just reuse it. And it's actually kind of a nice thing to have around, because it's just like, there's nothing, well, there's actually quite a lot of things, but there's something really beautiful about a artist's palette, like halfway in use, with the colors still on it. I think you can actually do that with oil paints too. I think you can take dry oil paints and add medium to it, and you know, like mix it up until it's usable again. But it's never going to be the same as like straight out of the tube, and plus it's just expensive. You know, oil medium is expensive, turpentine, white spirits, whatever. Yeah, I do find it difficult to stay motivated. I find it particularly difficult to stick to one thing. But at the moment now, the main thing that I'm focusing on is the game that I'm making, because I've invested quite a lot of time into it and I'd like to finish it, and I think there's quite a lot to it there that could make it quite an enjoyable game, especially for a mobile game, as there aren't really that many mobile games that are that great. I think the best mobile game is probably Terraria, and then apart from that, you know, like apps that allow you to play board games like chess, and been playing a lot of Chinese and Japanese chess actually, and there's some great apps for that on mobile. Shogi, the Japanese version of chess, has got a website, Lee Shogi, which is like the shogi version of Lichess, and it looks exactly the same as Lichess. Hang on, I just need to adjust the music here. If you haven't seen Lichess, it's basically like a I guess open source. It's got an open source feeling to it. I'm not sure if it actually is open source, but like a free version of chess.com. And I've actually heard like chess.com players make fun of Lichess. I think the engine is not as strong as chess.com. But yeah, there's a shogi version of that website, and I haven't even managed to beat the level 1 AI without cheating. That's how difficult the game is. But it's really fun to learn alternative versions of chess, especially if you're like a chess player who you know, you play a lot, but you don't really feel yourself getting better. It really feels good to just play a new game, because you get that the feeling that you got when you were a kid learning how to play chess, and the pieces feel more like soldiers, and you feel more like a general. I don't know, that's how I felt when I was a kid playing chess, because you know, all the pieces are anthropomorphized. You know, they're based on like military personnel and the monarchy or whatever. So you can imagine yourself as the leader of an army, which I guess is what the idea behind the games was in the first place. But shogi is the most. It's my favorite version of the three games. I like it more than chess. And it's way more complicated than chess, and that's not just my opinion. That's like the objective truth about it, because there's, at any given time, there's way more moves that you can make, because when you take a piece from your opponent, it goes into your hand, sort of like a game of cards or something, and you can play that piece literally on any free square on the board. So if you take your opponent's bishop, you can place that bishop right next to the king if you wanted to. So you always have to be aware of you know, the potential for a piece to appear anywhere on the board, which means that you always have to have perfect defenses unless you're attacking. So there's a whole side of shogi, a whole study that involves just building castles, sort of like castling in chess, but there's no castling move in shogi. You have to build the castle one move at a time, and there's you know, websites with lists of different castles that are very popular and have been used throughout the ages. And then Zhangqi or Zhangxi, I have no idea how to pronounce it. It's Xiangqi, Zhangxi, I think. That's Chinese chess, and it's also very difficult. And I think it's also more complex than chess, although I haven't verified that. But I think it is, because there's a bigger board. But I'm not 100% sure, because I think there are less pieces than chess. Yeah, there are, and the moves for some pieces are far less. There's just less moves for some pieces, like the kings and the advisors that are next to the king. So in Chinese chess, you have like a little palace where your king goes, and it can only move within that palace. And then there's a river in the middle of the board, and your bishops, which are also called elephants, cannot cross the river. Chinese chess is also called elephant chess. And it's a very elegant and beautiful game compared to shogi. Shogi is a lot more messy because there's so much going on all the time, and the moves also in shogi, the moves are quite short range, like the generals and the pawns and everything, which are like the majority of your pieces. They have very short range move sets. But in Zhangxi, you have new long range pieces, I guess, without the bishop. So the bishop is replaced with a new piece that is it's like a rook, but it's a rook that can only attack through another piece, which is it's a bit of a mindfuck for chess players, because you can move into check by blocking a piece. And it just, there's a bunch of new kinds of moves that you have to be aware of because of this piece called the cannon. And the cannon, the idea behind it is that it has to fire over a piece that is called the screen, the cannon screen. So I guess if you were to like anthropomorphize it, it's like if you're in a war and there was a cannon and it fired at you, and you saw it, you'd be able to dodge. But if there was something in the way and it fired over that thing, you wouldn't see the shot coming and you wouldn't be able to dodge. I think that's the idea behind it. But anyway, that's how I imagine it in my mind. So yeah, there can only be one piece, but there has to be one piece in between you and the piece that you're attacking. And you can't just move, you can't just jump over the pieces. It moves the same as a rook, except for when it's attacking. Anyway, this has become a bit of a chess tutorial. But yeah, it's just the things that I find interesting about those games. Shogi is the one that feels the closest to a real war, because the pieces are, I think, less abstract. Like there's promotion. There's every single piece in shogi can be promoted. In Jiangxi, there's no piece that can be promoted. I think I pronounce it differently every single time. There's no piece that can be promoted in Jiangxi. In chess, obviously, only the pawns can be promoted. But in shogi, every single piece can be flipped over to reveal a new, stronger piece when you get to the last three moves of the game. And that it just gives the game a very, very exciting feel to it. It feels more like a video game or something. And when a piece gets promoted, it's very exciting and scary if you're playing against someone who has a promoted piece. And there's a piece called the dragon. The rook promotes to a dragon. And in shogi, all the pieces are the same color. So like in chess and Jiangxi, there's black versus white, or whatever color versus whatever other color. But in shogi, the teams have different names. It's like sensei and something else I can't remember. But all the pieces are the same color because you can own any piece on the board. So you could end up with with all the pieces except for the opponent's king, in theory. So you know, if they were the different colors, then you wouldn't be able to do that. So it can be a little bit difficult to see what's going on. But the way that you identify which piece is which is by their orientation. Anyway, let's get back to the sculpting. So at this point, I wanted to see what it looked like with a toon shader, and I was trying to get it to kind of look like the reference image. So I was just stealing from my Meteo Sculpt. That's a video which you can watch on my channel, where I rigged it. It's an awesome facial rig, grease pencil facial rig. But yeah, as you can see here, I was just messing around with the toon shader, and like I said, I didn't really have any intention of texturing and rigging this guy, but I was just playing around with it because I wanted to see if I could get it close to the reference image, and it didn't really work out. I think I would be able to do it, but I'd have to make the shader from scratch, I think. Yeah, but I was quite happy with just the way that the body looked, the veins and everything. I think the face could have used a little bit more work. and I'm not sure if I ended up finishing the ears. I think I accidentally forgot to do the ears, but oh well. Yeah, the hair is very, very lazy. The hair is just a hook brush with a really sharp fall off, and then I just pull out a bunch of strands. Yeah. Oh, okay. So I did actually go back and fix the face a little bit, which is good. So I was working on 2 games, but I had to scrap the second game because it was going to be fully multiplayer, so there wasn't going to be a single player. And while I have had success in getting local multiplayer to work, so if the computers are on the same network or the devices on the same network, it works perfectly. The multiplayer works. But unfortunately, I haven't had any success in getting remote multiplayer working. And there's a number of ways to do it. I think it would work if I just did a simple port forwarding thing with IP addresses, although none of my testing has worked. I haven't tested it from a different IP address, I've only tested it internally, but I haven't managed to connect it through the internet, only when it's like a local connection. So I tried using Firebase. I spent a long time connecting my apps to the Google Play services, which is a good idea, but I thought that Google Play services had multiplayer, but they don't support that. They stopped supporting it in like 2020. But anyway, I successfully got it hooked up to Google Play services, and that's cool because you can like log in and you can get achievements which are quite easy to implement, and you can see if your friends online and stuff like that, but there's no multiplayer there. And Firebase is designed to work with Google services, as are a number of other cloud-based services, but it's a whole thing. Like all the advice that I've seen online says if you're making your first game, do not do multiplayer. And I've already spent a lot of time making both of my games compatible with multiplayer, because there's like a specific coding pattern that you have to use when making multiplayer games. But I've realized now that I have to abandon the idea of implementing remote multiplayer, at least for the time being, which means that I had to completely scrap the other game. And I think all that being said, it's for the best. You know, when you actually end up scrapping something, it should be for the best. I mean, you shouldn't be scrapping something and then, feel bad about it, because I'm scrapping it because I felt bad about wasting all this time not getting multiplayer to work. And now that those projects are scrapped, now I can fully focus on what I know that I can finish, and that's the single player game mixed with, I can still have multiplayer. You can still, it's a mobile game and a PC game, but if you have a friend nearby and he has the same game on his cell phone, you can in theory create a mobile hotspot and play multiplayer against him. So I can still put in the advert, play with your friends. If you're on the same Wi-Fi, then you're set. It'll automatically detect other players on the network, which I was really happy I got that working. That's I think it's UDP broadcasting and listening or something like that. But anyway, it works, and that's awesome. But yeah, now that I've abandoned the idea of doing like a large-scale remote multiplayer, I feel much better about going forward with the rest of the game, and it feels like I will actually be able to release it eventually. If you'd like to see that, just go back one video. It's the previous video that I uploaded. I implemented archery into the game. It was quite funny. When I was making that video, there were a bunch of bugs that kept popping up, and instead of restarting the video, I just decided to fix the bugs during the video and keep going. Some of the bugs were just unfixable, but they were all such a surprise. And making games is really difficult. Like, when you add something, it can break other things that you had working originally. So for example, the save system I had working with like large towns with people moving all over the show, and I tried to save during the video and it just crashed. Yeah, but I mean, it actually makes sense that it crashed. And like, there were people flying through the air, but anyway, I don't mind showing bugs and showing all the bad parts. Just like in this video, you can see the ears there are just lumps, basically. There's not really, but it's enough. Like, from the front view, it's enough. You don't really need much. But it doesn't hold up at all if you look close. The hands were very touch and go too. The hands are more just suggestions of fists. At this point, I was thinking of posing it using the built-in sculpting pose tools. I've had success using them in the past, but it wasn't working with me right now. And I think it was just because the model is so high res that I was just getting frustrated trying to move it around, so I just abandoned that idea. But maybe in the future, you know, if people like this video, if you want to you know, be able to download or buy this rig, let me know, and I could rig it up. You know, I could rig it up. I could give it a facial rig. That would actually be a lot of fun. Give him proper hands, or at the very least, I could just post this model as it is on Gumroad or something. Anyway, so there's the finished product, the finished Hulk. Yeah, I used this pretty cool built-in lighting system in the main solid mode just to showcase it. It's another trick that I picked up from that speed sculpting guy. Yeah, and you can change the orientation of the lights and stuff, and add creases. There's an option in there, it's called cavity, and it adds a bunch of shadows for ridges and stuff like that, and it looks great. And I wish that kind of thing was a little bit easier when it came to actually rendering. I don't think there's like rendering options that are that cool. But rendering for me has always been the least fun part. I think specialization in 3D kind of happens naturally. I've always found it much easier to model things than to render things or to texture things. And it's not even so much about it being easy as it is just about it being annoying and not fun. I don't enjoy lighting objects. I mean, it's a little bit fun, but I don't know. I don't enjoy the process of lighting and rendering and texturing and getting things looking realistic. I like to model something and then just throw it away. Anyway, that's the end of the video. Thank you very much for watching, and if you like my stuff, please subscribe and check out some of the other videos on my channel. Thanks again for watching, and goodbye.